At 2:38 that same afternoon on Air Force One, with Mrs. Kennedy as a witness, Lyndon Baines Johnson took the oath of office as the 36th President of the United States. Jackie refused to take off her blood-stained dress, which she would continue to wear throughout the funeral service as a memorial to her fallen husband. Robert Kennedy greeted Mrs. Kennedy that evening at the Washington airport, and the two of them planned a most impressive funeral that was televised throughout the world. The United States went into a 3-day period of mourning. All programs were canceled. The National Football League canceled games, and the only thing heard on the radio and television was classical music. No commercials, just classical music, uninterrupted except for newscasts and bulletins and information about the death and funeral. America truly went into mourning. The most poignant moment of the funeral came when Jacqueline, her daughter Caroline, and little John were standing before the casket. And suddenly, young John raised his hand in a smart military salute, as he so often did when he and his father would play. On November 29th, President Johnson appointed a Blue Ribbon Committee to investigate the assassination. It was headed by Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Earl Warren. The amount of testimony taken and the voluminous bits of information were cataloged. The investigation went on for many months, even years. Also, a number of private investigations created a storm of controversy unequaled in the history of America. Conspiracies of many kind were hinted at and argued about. Innuendos concerning the CIA, FBI, Fidel Castro, organized crime, organized labor, to name a few, were discussed openly on talk programs on both radio and television. But when the Warren Commission report was issued, it declared Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in the killing of President Kennedy and that he did it with a single gun. Shortly after Kennedy was shot, Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended and charged with the murder of the president. The next day, a restaurant owner and nightclub operator with an unsavory reputation, Jack Ruby, walked into the Dallas jail and in front of live cameras on nationwide television, shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald proved to be a perfect suspect. He worked at the Texas Depository. He had ordered a mail-order gun of the type used in the killing. He was a communist sympathizer. He had gone to Russia and married a Russian girl. Some of the most famous lawyers in America descended on Dallas to represent Jack Ruby. However, Ruby mysteriously got sick and died of cancer and never went to trial. In 1981, the United States government reopened the tomb of Lee Harvey Oswald to determine if that was really he, Oswald, in the casket. And the evidence substantiated that indeed the man buried was Lee Harvey Oswald. And this was the official United States government announcement. America is still in doubt as to who killed John Kennedy, and we may never know the real truth. Ironically, the president's brother on June 6, 1968, met the same fate when Robert Kennedy, who had just won the California delegation's convention votes, which would have certainly given him the nomination to run against Richard Nixon for president in 1968, instead, he was assassinated, and Hubert Humphrey got the nomination and lost. But John Kennedy, in 1,000 days, procured the Non-Proliferation Nuclear Test Ban Agreement with the Soviet Union. He developed the Peace Corps and committed the United States toward landing a man on the moon, which he prophesied and which did come true in 1969. We have not, nor are we likely to see, the likes of him ever again.
My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.